Hi everyone, in this video I want to talk about the topic of toxic femininity and toxic masculinity, which essentially in combination or when present in more amounts in a man or a woman can end up leading to a earth that is imbalanced and a earth that stays in the from grace situation that the story of Adam and Eve talk about. So when fall from grace happens, basically humans or anyone who is here on earth existing on earth at a certain point of time, when we start gaining information that is outside of our zone of gaining that information, basically when we take the fruit of knowledge of good and evil, like how Eve was tempted to consume by the serpent, that fruit of knowledge of the good and evil that Eve is getting tempted to consume or is actually a knowledge that Eve is not meant to know, depending on her evolutionary status and evolutionary point of time of her earthly journey. So for example, if when in the Bible, some stories about the Bible that I heard recently in via videos, because I'm not a Christian, but I do like stories about Christianity and stories from Judaism too. And in those stories of the Bible, what I understood from reading those stories or hearing those stories is that when any point of time some information is imparted to humans at a particular point of time on earthly existence. So in story of Christianity, what was ensuing was happening at least 2000 years back or more than 2000 years back, whereas the story from the Old Testament are stories that have ensued another 1000 2000 years before that, right? So at that point of time when some story is being narrated, story is just a medium of explaining a philosophical way of living. And in that story, that's why of Adam and Eve, the fruit of knowledge of good and evil that God is talking about is actually the knowledge related to whatever is your time point of existence is time on earth. So if I was a person who was existing 2000 years back, imagine me being a woman or a man existing 2000 plus years back on earth during the time of Christianity. And at that time, if men were told that in the future women are going to start learning, in the future women will have equal say in family matters or in professional saying, that would seem very ridiculous to the men of 2000 years back, and to them that would seem like a calamity, that it's the end of their world, because they will think that, oh, if women start having certain knowledge, it would be bad for humanity, or they could have whatever misperceptions they would have based on the century in which they were born, they were existing. So that's why that is kind of like a fruit of knowledge of a good and evil. People don't know what is the good or evil inherent in something that is very different from what they are used to thousands of years back. So for them, something that is extremely different and difficult to imagine will seem like a evil when it may not be an evil. Because are there any men or women currently on earth who actually regret that their mom has a job, or that their mom earns money, or that the mom was equally educated as them, and that even if their mom doesn't have a job, their mom actually teaches them something valuable when they are having problems in school life or things like that. So any man who is existing right now, or any man or woman or child, is grateful if their mother, father, grandparents had some knowledge that they wouldn't have had if they had existed 2000 years back or 3000 years back, when women didn't get education. Same way, this similar thing also is also there in our Hinduism's texts, where in Hinduism also certain texts do talk about women not gaining the knowledge related to Upanishads or Vedas, or if they get that knowledge, that would be considered as a evil time. So again, if a woman gets the knowledge of scriptures, while to a person from a particular century that may seem again like a very scary thing, because it's not a norm, and at that time if women get that knowledge it would be bad. But if in the future a woman has indeed that knowledge, there has to be usually some higher purpose that that knowledge got translated or transferred to other genders in the future. So the person who decides though when men and women have to start sharing the knowledge, start exchanging knowledge, is a time that is decided by God. But when that time gets distorted and a serpent comes into the picture, serpent who was in the Bible, the serpent who comes and gives this tells Eve to go and taste that fruit, it essentially means he is allegorically, it means whether she literally tasted a fruit of good and evil related knowledge, I don't know. But figuratively, what I understand from studying that story is that figuratively she was given influenced by the devil to gain access to a knowledge that was not hers to gain at that point of her earthly existence. And the moment she gains her knowledge that is not hers to gain at that time, and she just merely didn't gain that knowledge, she also asked Adam to taste that fruit, and they both gained that knowledge. So as soon as both of them gained that knowledge, they fell from grace. And in here many men sometimes start, that's why, thinking that women is the evil, that women entices a man to do evil. While it is possibly true sometimes that a woman can indeed entice a man to do evil, you have to understand that the woman who entices a man to do evil is herself getting ruled by evil in some ways, and the man is also getting ruled by evil in some ways. Because the evil that was ruling both of them first was that Adam didn't specifically tell Eve which tree not to consume the fruit from. Secondly, Eve doubted that whether God really told them not to consume that fruit. So Eve got a doubt in her mind about God's instruction. That's how she got enticed by the fruit, by the devil or serpent, to go and taste that fruit. But thirdly, people don't understand this serpent, and I tried to address it in my previous video, but I got a little backtracked in it. But essentially the serpent is like the kundalini energy arising within us. So our kundalini energy that arises within any human being is arising when our chakra systems get activated. Now say, while my chakra system is activated, my chakra gets only stuck in the lower two chakras. Then where am I stuck? I am stuck in my very basal emotions. So I will be stuck in my root chakra related things, and I'll be stuck in my sacral chakra related things. So when you get stuck in the root and sacral chakra related things, you are essentially not in a balanced, aligned chakra energy. And at that time again, that is the serpent that is enticing you then to do the evil, because you are in your lower basal emotions where you're only looking at material things in life, because root chakra is related to material things, sacral chakra is earthly things of life, and sacral chakra is related to emotions, but it's also related to sexual connection with some other human being. So, and which is what does happen when the world is going towards a darker place, when the world is going towards all the kinds of predictions that are considered as evil, those kind, or end times. In those times humans are existing a lot more in their bottom two chakras, or maximum the bottom three chakras. And what are the bottom three chakras? The middle chakra is the chakra related to their core, or the solar plexus chakra, which is called the Muladhara chakra, which is their central core. So when our core is getting distorted, which can happen when children get abused by their parents, when children are sexually exploited, when women are sexually exploited, when men are sexually exploited, when people, men and women, are only in even if they are not exploited and they are supposed to have a healthy life and a healthy relationship, even then at that time they are mostly in their sexual energy than other energies as well. They're not exploring, or when people are just consumed with just gaining whatever the material world tells them they need to gain. So the material world tells they have to earn money to get food and get a house and get a life. That's all they are stuck in. They're stuck in these roti kapda makan, food, clothing, shelter paradigm, and they're not looking at life in anything beyond these three paradigms. And that is essentially what 3D earth is. 3D earth, which is the earth that has fallen from grace, because in a 3D earth people are not going beyond sex, people are not trying to understand beyond sex, people are not understanding beyond material needs, and people's core strength is also related to mostly sexual or very earthly things, but the basal earthly things, than the elevated way of living that could be possible on earth, but is only possible when men and women are ready to awaken their kundalini energy completely, and also realize that what is the extent of knowledge they should gain depending on the timeline at which they are existing on earth. So if I'm existing on a earth that is 2000 years old, there is a certain kind of knowledge I should have. If I'm existing on earth at this time in the 21st 22nd century timeline that I am existing, at that time whatever knowledge I am getting during this 2020 year is the year relevant knowledge for this year, is the only knowledge I should be gaining access to. Now instead, if when arising the kundalini I start getting access to knowledge from another 1000 years of earth's future, then that will lead to imbalance on earth, because you're not supposed to get extra knowledge related to the century in which you're not existing or you're not going to live in. You should only get the knowledge about the century, or even not even a century. I should technically, our life is created on earth in such a way that everything has to be ephemeral in some ways. So while certain things are permanent, that maybe if you have a good strong relationship with your friend, with your family, with your partners, with your work colleagues, that is good. A little bit of stability is always required by humans. So certain amount of stability in the form of some core relationships will be present in all of our lives. But despite our stability of a core relationship being there in our lives, one or two or four, 5 or 6 or 10 or 20, or even for some people 100 core relationships might be there, depending on how engaged they are with different people. Despite that, the main thing people need to focus on is also understand that life on earth is meant to be ephemeral, and good and bad, or something that we are perceiving as good, maybe in future related to our bad, or something we perceived as bad might be in the future for our good. So these things are what earthly life is meant to explore. And after exploring all this, if you have eventually understood that whatever I'm categorizing as good or bad is eventually not going to be either good or bad, it will just be whatever it was meant to be, that is when you are elevating and exiting out of the duality of the 3D life and possibly going into the higher dimensional way of living. So that is where Adam and Eve were earlier. They were in that higher dimensional way of living where good or evil wouldn't matter to them. They just had to exist the way God meant for them to exist. But because they were not able to just simply exist as God meant for them to exist in that earth, they fell from grace, because they got this curiosity, a curiosity that came from the devil gives us excess curiosity, more curiosity than what you are supposed to be okay with in your life. So like more curiosity meaning and this is where devils, all the negative emotions or the toxic femininity emotions and toxic masculinity emotions start coming up within us when the devil is influencing us, where the devil will influence us that if our friend has a better home than us, or a better home life than us, or a better good looking spouse than us, or many children, more children than us, or well behaved children than us, these, or someone has really good friendship that you covet, that you don't have that kind of a friendship, or someone has a car that you are coveting, whatever it is that you are coveting about others, it doesn't matter whether you're coveting their spouse or you're coveting a thing that they have, a quality that they have, that is when you give the chance for the serpentine energy of the devil to come and attack you and keep you in the lower vibrational energy, which is what the serpent represents. The serpent represents multiple things. One of the things is serpent represents the kundalini energy. If the kundalini energy inside us is not balanced, that will also lead us to doing certain wrong things. If the kundalini energy inside us is not completely awakened, again we will get into negative toxic zones. If the kundalini energy within us is also influencing us to gain access to information, because when the kundalini awakens, your crown chakra will open. If you keep your crown chakra constantly open instead of learning how to close all your chakras also, there is a time when your chakras should be open, there's a time when your chakras should be closed. If you constantly keep it open, then again you are giving access to energies to come inside your body and play havoc with either your body or your some chakra of your body, which is something that they might think, evil might think is the core chakra that they can manipulate for you, and using that. So if someone is very proud of, say, I am, which is what happened, like I thought I was doing very good in terms of heart chakra matters. Now then realistically I finally realized, no, I'm not really good at heart chakra related things. So because of which, what happened, my heart chakra started getting manipulated because I was proud about something that I wasn't supposed to be proud about, and that gave the entry for someone to manipulate me using that chakra. Same way, there are other chakras. If someone is very proud of the intellect they have, they could get influenced by their intellect can get manipulated then, because again we are able to be manipulated at the extent at which we are falling into the devil's trap, and in the extent at which we are not aligned with God's path. I'm not yet aligned, so that's why you look at me, I'm not completely healed, I have some unhealed things. And when I'm making these videos also, while they are spontaneous and in the flow, in between my flow also, the devil starts sometimes coming and jumbling my videos, or making it such that it doesn't sound very as logical as I could make it sound if I was sitting and writing on this. Because while I'm speaking, this area of my body is currently right now under devil's influence partly, which happened because of multiple reasons. But whichever area of my body is getting influenced by the negative energy, that is the place where I will start having problems expressing. So I have problems expressing emotions currently, or I have problems expressing emotions in the right way, or or in a balanced way, and expressing also. While there are things which I can express very easily quite in a balanced way, there are things I can't express that easily in a balanced way, because I am not completely balanced currently in my own chakras. So this is how the serpent comes and influences us, and influences us in a negative manner to take us towards the path of darkness versus taking us towards the path of light. And this can also happen when the attacks on you will happen higher, or at that time when you are more close to a breakthrough in life that will take you to the path of light. But instead of choosing the path of light, we can end up choosing the wrong path at that crucial moment when multiple attacks will happen at the same time, which is essentially what happened to me. That multiple attacks happened related to physical health, spiritual health, financial health, emotional health. So all of these happened right at the same time. And even with physical health, because I understand healthcare related things a little bit more, I had to experience more of the physical health related different parameters. And again, in that is the place where our faith in God works, trust in God works, or the testing time of how much we will trust God happens, as well as how much do we trust the people we have trusted in the past happens. It can also be the testing time for the people who are meant to be in our life, whether they are able to trust us, that even in that darkness are they able to come and help us. Are they able to understand that we are truly, when we are even when influenced by the devil, you can still be in your authentic phase or place. So are they able to understand where the authenticity lies within you? And why is that important? Because in order to ascend, in order for anyone to go into awakening or ascension, real ascension, not the fake ascension that is happening currently on earth for many people, but if you want real ascension, for real ascension, authenticity is necessary. Removing your toxic femininity traits are necessary. Removing your toxic masculinity traits are necessary as well. And our toxic femininity, toxic masculinity trait arises from where? Toxic femininity would be manipulating others, not being authentic, trying to not just dupe man, but some people are also trying to think that they can manipulate energies to dupe God as well. Those people are there on earth. Then there are people who are also those are the toxic femininity trait, constant manipulation, because they're so afraid to experience whatever is next supposed to come in their life, not knowing that God always has your back. God will never give you a test or a pain that you are not capable of handling. So those people who are afraid to handle those tests and pains are the ones who start creating all these manipulative conditions on earth. Then there is other people who are toxic masculinity trait oriented, who do not understand why for thousands or hundreds of years women have slowly been getting education, and women have slowly started entering professions that they have to enter, because there is a time when masculine energy has to take preference in doing certain work life, and masculine energy's role is to build, whereas feminine energy's role is to figure out where some negativity is, because feminine energy rules negativity while masculine energy positively builds things. Feminine energy has to give the negative feedback to the masculine energy, where while building something positive also something harmful is getting built, or keep the wariness of where something negative can potentially happen. That awareness and balance needs to be there. Secondly, while building, also after building, when repairs are needed, that is when feminine energy has to come into play. So if there are social systems that need some repair, if there are government systems that need repair, if there are, and not just repair, feminine energy also is supposed to redirect. So there is a repair and redirect and change that usually feminine energy brings, whereas masculine energy is to align with that repair, redirect, change, and align in a way that will in a balanced manner create the next set of evolution on earth. That's why our galaxy is a spiral galaxy, otherwise it wouldn't be a spiral. We're constantly turning, so at every century or every few years certain things need to turn in every field. It can in our, and similarly it needs to turn even in our family life. So when masculine energy becomes too toxic masculinity is what? Toxic masculinity are those masculine energy oriented men or women who are not able to realize that every few years or every few decades some changes are necessary for them to continue existing on earth and on this galaxy of earth. That is the condition of life that is meant to happen and unfold in a spiraling galaxy, where spirals of changes have to happen every few years, every few decades, every few centuries. And those who are willing to understand that ephemeral nature of world are people like me, who end up failing in things and then again getting up, or after failure sitting and wondering what is that failure about. And I'm not, when I'm in a very toxic feminine energy, masculine energy, then I will stay stuck in the failure. When we are not in a toxic masculine energy, when we are in a balanced masculine and feminine energy, you will learn from your failure. When something changes, again, if you're in a toxic energy, you will not learn from it. If you're in a toxic feminine energy and some change happened where, you know, your family died, or you got your parents got divorced, and if you are in a toxic feminine energy, you will consider that as the greatest. It's not normal feminine energy will make it seem like a disaster, but only for a few years, or a few definitely for a few years you will grieve that. If someone has died, if someone has divorced you, if you lost a job, for a job, you for a few months you should be grieving, or maximum a year or two. For a family loss, you might, because it's a more emotional element of your life, and it's a more stabilizing element of your life. For family life related changes, maybe for 3 to 5 years you might continue grieving about it in a larger scale in the first 3 years, and then slowly declining scale in the later years of your life, when you are in a balanced feminine and masculine energy. But when you are not in a balanced feminine and masculine energy, you will, and it is nothing wrong that after 10 years of someone passing away, if you grieve them, that is still a balanced energy. If you occasionally grieve someone who has passed away, who's not there in your life anymore. But what becomes toxic is if you continue wishing for them to come back, or wishing that how do I get this person back in my life. That is where it becomes toxic, especially because if you're not guided into getting them back in your life. Like, say, you were divorced from someone, and the reason why your divorce happened is because your marriage needed some time and space for both people to mature at a level that they are not mature when they were initially married. So at that time, after 10 years of divorce, if you want to consider getting back to your first spouse, that might be okay, but only if you were guided to do it. If again, when you get back with that spouse, you're not getting back out of the motive of revenge, or out of the motive of ego, or out of the motive that you are lonely, or all the toxic traits that cause people to get back to with a partner. If those toxic traits are present, then you are not aligned. But say, both of them were meant to heal and do some individual learning about from God, about how their life path should merge again later on in life. At that time, if they got separated for 10 years and got divorced and stayed divorced for a few years, and then they got back together, that makes sense. If there was a divine purpose for them to get back together, divine purpose for them to have separated and then come back together, that makes sense. But a toxic masculine will do what? A toxic masculine might just want to might start hating that his wife is dating many other people, and that's why he wants her back. Then that's a toxic masculine trait. A toxic feminine might hate being lonely, or not getting the attention from other men that her man was giving her, so that's why she wants him back. So these are all toxic masculine and toxic feminine traits, especially if you're doing out of selfish motivations. You want to get back together with someone with whom your life path had already ended, instead of learning. And it stays toxic because you're not learning from the experience as to why your relationship first of all failed. What was it with you that was wrong, that was causing it to fail? What was it about them that they were doing wrong that was causing it to fail? Because people are not perfect on earth. We can't if we were meant to be perfect, we would have been existing on a different kind of a planetary system with a different way of living. We wouldn't be existing on a 3D earth currently if we knew how to exist on a on the earth that God had intended initially this earth to be like. So initially God had intended it to be a 5D earth, and in a 5D earth we were meant to live in a higher vibrational way of living than we are living currently on earth. But in order to get to that higher vibrational way of living, which is what ascension is about, you have to first acknowledge what is wrong with your way of living currently on 3D earth. Not just your way, everyone's way of living. Because if you're meant to be a teacher, you have to learn what is wrong with everyone's way of living. Otherwise, you can't teach people. If you are meant to be a guide, again you have to learn, if not everyone's, the teacher who is the highest teacher will learn about what everyone is doing wrong. But if someone is supposed to be a teacher in India, you're supposed to learn what are Indians doing wrong. If you are a teacher who is supposed to start doing something in Christianity faith, then you will have to realize what is wrong in Christianity faith that is going wrong. If you are supposed to work in schooling systems as a teacher, then what is it going wrong in the teaching systems? If you are a doctor, what is it that doctors are going wrong in misaligning with 5D earth. So everyone has a different purpose, different reason, and different area. That's why everyone who has ascended or is in the path thinking that they are ascending, but no one has currently yet ascended. They might be in false paradigm of ascension, but everyone who is on the journey of ascension has to realize where they are going right, where they are going wrong, and understand that 5D earth is a collaborative earth. It is not a dog eat dog world. So in a collaborative earth, you have to understand the value and importance of everyone who will come and be in your life, and not just value and importance. If someone is devaluing you, you have to also understand they are not ready to either ascend with you, or they are not ready to be a part of the section of ascension that you are supposed to work on. Because like how our human body is made, that is what how ascension is. In our human body, we have brain doing a certain function, eye doing a certain function, heart, hand, feet, different organs are doing different functions. So like that, in the ascension journey also, those who have to do thinking related tasks, they have a certain function. Those who have to do heart centered based tasks, they have a different set of things they have to learn. Those who have to do the arm strength related tasks, they will have a different kind of things to learn. So everyone in the ascension journey, based on where their core working function will have to awaken to that core function level of their work life and of their personal life as well, because personal life and work life are interconnected. That also people have to now start collaborating about their work life and personal life as well. You can't segment and keep your work life and personal life separate. If you are keeping your work life and personal life separate, then what is going to happen is you will either have only a personal life or have only a work life. Otherwise, in order to have a balanced life in this century, work and personal life has to go hand in hand and be in flow with each other. And that's why also you have to have those kind of people in your life who are aligned with you in understanding what your professional life means when you're doing a professional work, what your personal life means when you're wanting a certain kind of personal life to be achieved in your life. So if you're misaligned, then that's why also there are so many divorces that happened in this century and last century. There are so many marriages that break up. That's also a deeper reason why wars happen or natural calamities happen, because while it sounds very clinical if I say that the death of someone has a higher purpose, the real truth is every death has equal purpose as every life. People don't realize it, but each death has equal purpose as each life. And that's the reason why 8 billion people are there on earth. Out of the 8 billion people, those who don't believe in reincarnation don't get this usually. But if reincarnation exists, it also means that my same this person as me is also existing somewhere else on earth as another human being as well. So if 5 versions of me are existing on this timeline of earth, where maybe in one version of mine I am 90 years old, in another version I am a 5-year-old child, in another version I am a 30-year-old woman, in another version I am a 60-year-old woman. So let's say all these different age groups of my existence are there on earth. Now if natural calamity happens, or disease happens, or a pandemic happens, something happens where out of the 5 versions, 3 of my versions die, there is a purpose to those 3 versions of mine dying. Why? Because meant to come to do some work with that family. So if I don't die, then that other person who's meant to enter that family life can't enter. So their purpose will not start, or their purpose can't begin. Same way with divorces. When divorces are happening right now, when you get through a divorce, it is harm. Anyone who goes through a divorce understands it's harmful and painful. Anyone who goes through heartbreaks also understands it's harmful and painful. But if you don't have that divorce experience or heartbreak experience from one partner, that heartbreak will stimulate something in you that's related to your higher purpose, and that higher purpose can't manifest if you continue grieving for something unnaturally. Some grief is obviously required when we lose someone in our life, but there is a time for grief and there is a time to let go of grief. So that time for letting go of the grief is also necessary thing people have to understand. If you are here on earth to be a earthly balanced existence, in order to have earthly balanced existence, everyone on earth has to learn it. Even those people who think they are above this, they feel they are not meant to learn it. Even if you feel like that, doesn't mean that you're not going to learn that lesson, because that is key core thing everyone has to learn. So it doesn't matter whether you live in a illusion that I did something good in my last life, and that's why in this life I'm not supposed to get pain and suffering. It doesn't work like that. You can stop getting pain and suffering only when a right balance aligned earth is there. Until that right balance aligned earth, right balance aligned you as a person is not there, you can't transcend grief until you understood all the aspects of grief. You can't transcend happiness until you understood all the elements that make happiness truly worthwhile. Right? So you can only transcend happiness and grief when you've understood all the elements, assimilated all the elements, practiced all the elements in different versions of you. So if that's why God has also given some people 4 or 5 different forms of that. People talk about these doppelgangers. Doppelgangers are kind of like those people who are possibly your multi-dimensional self that is existing in a different body. So that person might have understood say different stages of grief. You understood different stages of happiness. So while one understood different stages of grief, another understood different stages of happiness. Now if they both die at the same time or at 2 different time points, one dies today, one dies 10 years later, once that soul has assimilated both this information, now they can reincarnate on a earth where grief is gone, happiness is gone. It's a different level of existence there. Right? But can you go to that level if you didn't graduate the first few levels? So we are kind of like in the first few. 3D earth is kind of like the primary school level of earthly existence. So in order for us to go from primary school level to secondary level, and then to college, and then to university, then to work level of earth life, you can't, as a 3-year-old 3rd standard kid, go into work life. If you go into work life, you are being given the fruit of knowledge of good and evil. So evil is occurring with you if you are getting the knowledge of what it if a 3-year-old is getting knowledge about what work life should be like. Very few people, if their parents have died and at that time if they are doing some work as a school going kid, it makes sense. But for most of the other kids, it is not a appropriate thing to do. If your parents are not dead, you're not supposed to gain access to that knowledge. And even if your parents were dead, technically everyone in your family life or in society, someone should be adopting you, should be taking care of you. Even then, you should not actually be given the knowledge of what it means to become a laborer. You should become a laborer only after 16, 17, 18 years of age. Until then, you should not be doing laborious work. You can do family chores, but family chores is different from doing laborious 10, 12 hours or 5, 6 hours of some work in some workplace, right? So there's a difference. So that difference people need to understand. Same way, when people give, there's another thing that is problem with the fruit of good and evil is the knowledge of sex. people are educating children, 8-year-old children, about what is good touch, bad touch. You should not be educating a society that is going that way, that you have to force your kids to, or you are being compelled to educate your kids about these again at a younger age. It shouldn't be happening. The knowledge of sexuality is something they should understand only after they have hit puberty, or if they start showing the signs of puberty and are emotionally showing the signs of puberty, which, when a kid wants privacy, or a kid is talking amongst their friends about sexual stuff. At that age, at 12 years, 13, 14 years of age, if you give them that knowledge, it makes more sense. And the sooner you give them this knowledge, you are again, doing the same thing. You are allowing your child to fall from grace, because it's your job until the kid reaches 13, 14 years age, that you protect the kid from this knowledge, that they should have a childhood. There is a purpose to childhood. If you don't have childhood innocence, and from 10 years of age or 5 years of age only a child starts having the knowledge of a teenage year, that is, don't you find it yucky? I find it very yucky in all these TV shows where 10-year-old kids are doing provocative acts, which a 10-year-old shouldn't be doing. Even a 20-30-year-old shouldn't be doing those provocative acts, according to me, because value of sex also diminishes on a earth when billions of population are there. So people have to understand the balance about sex also. Sex and sexuality has an importance on earth when earth is not highly populated, or when people are not living long lives. But when people are living long lives, then sex and sexuality stops losing its purpose. It should not have that same value as when there was less population on earth. So when there was less population, when there were only 1,000 people on earth, and if people had 10 kids, it makes sense. Or when the people had a lot of war going on earth, again, if they had 5-6 kids in the family, it makes sense. But if there is a earth with no war, no famine, people are living 90 to 100 years of age life, or even longer than that, in that earth, that's why children stop getting birthed, or won't be birthed until it's the right time again for children to be birthed, which is one of the stories in the Bible regarding Abraham's story, where in Bible, if you read, when I started reading the Bible, I found that in the earlier parts of Bible, they're talking about the different tribes of people who are living for 400 years, 500 years, 900 years. Now when a person is living like that 900 years, in that person's life, getting a progeny will be useful. When, like, if on average currently on earth humans live about 70-80 years of age, at that time humans getting a child in their 20s or 30s is a considered to be the balanced choice. Right now people get children usually in their 20s or 30s. People are trying to avoid getting teen pregnancies, right? Whereas when in a earth when only humans used to survive only up to 50 years of age, at that times teen pregnancies were normal, right? So imagine now, from 50 years, when people used to survive 40-50 years age, and at that time teen pregnancies were normal. Now that double of that age is occurring, people are existing, some people are living beyond 100. That's why that age has shifted from women getting pregnant in 15-16 years of age. Now women are getting pregnant twice that age, right? So at 28 or 32 is the age where you will see many women are currently, from my generation, many women are getting pregnant from 25 to 35 years range, or 22 to 32 years range. That is where it was in my generation. Now the next generation, if again humans earth life now gets extended from 100 years, like right now the oldest human people know is about 120, 128. Now again another 30 years down the line, or 50 years down the line, or next century, if humans are found to be existing until 150 years of age, at that time again the timeline of birth will shift, and appropriate timeline for giving birth will not be teenage or 20s. Then at that time the appropriate timeline for giving birth might be 30s and 40s, because the more you shift. And that's why in Abraham's story, when he was 100 years of age or nearing 100, that is when he finally got the prophesied son that he was supposed to get, because he was existing on an earth where people were living over hundreds of years. They were living after, for them that 100 years is equivalent to, in our timeline, a 20-year-old, because if I can live until 100, me getting a kid in my 20s is same to a man getting a kid in their hundreds if those men are going to live 400-500 years. So does that make sense? So there is a equivalency involved, and these things people have to understand and translate and intuitively gain understanding about. That's why those who think if they get kids now as a teen or in their 20s that they are doing the right thing, no, you are getting misaligned again if you're focusing on having kids or having a family life in your 20s. It's more balanced if earth is shifting towards a longer period of living. It is a more balanced earth when you don't get your kids in your 20s and 30s, when you get your kids after you have some financial security, after you have some other internal inherent spiritual knowledge or other knowledge necessary for the next generation to thrive well, survive well, exist well on earth. So, and which is also part of the ascension journey. You have to understand the appropriateness of the phase of life you are existing on earth. If you continue existing on a paradigm which is based on a past paradigm, older paradigm, misaligned from current status of earthly life's paradigm, you are getting misaligned, and then you are more likely to be existing on a 3D earth than on a 5D earth. You can't go to a 5D earth if you don't understand these out of the box concepts and concepts related to pushing you about your ways of thinking and looking at what you have learned so far, because what you have learned so far is not false. But when you learn something from religion, when you learn something from science, when you learn something in your family life, when you have learned something in your social or cultural life, at the point of time that was valid way of living, it is a acceptable thing until it is stops becoming valid for a current generation or future generation. So high population or higher number of kids, when it was valid, it was allowed, it was not shunned, it was not considered as a bad thing. Or sex, when it was necessary at that time, it was not considered a bad thing. But sex also becomes evil, and you have to realize this also in the past also, though in the stories of the Bible men have married many women. At that time maybe women's numbers on earth might have been less, or men's number on earth might have been less, women number on earth might have been more. Or if men died, women didn't have any other way of looking after themselves. That's why men ended up marrying more women, because then if a woman dies, there are two brothers and they have married two women. Now if the one of the brother dies, if because of property rights issues and other issues, there are so many, and you will see in the African tribes that is a norm also. In the past African tribe related histories, men are marrying their brothers' wives. Later on it became a cruel act when kings are killing their brothers and in order to get possession of their wives. That's where society is going wrong. But during the time when it was acceptable because at that time women will not get any shelter if they didn't have a spouse. So for those women getting to be the second wife of a person when their spouse has died, that's why it happened. Or those women who are really poor and they do not have any dependents, like in the story of Ruth and Boaz, same thing. Ruth's husband had died, so and Ruth and her mother-in-law do not have any other her mother-in-law's other sons had also died, so they needed some man to take care of them in that time point of life where women didn't used to do a lot of work, or women were not supposed to do a lot of outside home work. So because of which getting married was a more saner, wiser solution for them. So getting second marriage, third marriage was that's why allowed. The same is true right now also. Only difference is now that the earth has so much population, if you made a mistake of marrying someone out of hurriedness because you saw everyone else getting married in your 20s and 30s or teens and you got married as well, but now if in your 10 years later you're realizing this is a misaligned marriage, you should have the courage to exit those misaligned marriages. And before exiting, of course, you do have to work. If it has been a long marriage, you should try to work on it using a therapist or someone. But if the therapist or other mediators are not able to mitigate the marriage in the right way, then you have to understand that, why are you existing on a billion populated earth? Are you meant to exist on a earth with billions of people simply to be miserable with one person? Or are you also supposed to have the hope that in future you will have a better quality life if a poor quality of life is unfolding with some spouse? It means that you were not meant to be their long-term life partner. You were just meant to be possibly their temporary partner for a while, but the long-term purpose was maybe just simply friendship with them. Or if friendship is not possible, that is okay, but realize the importance, like maybe you were just meant to have a kid with them and that's it. But later on, for your true partner to enter your life, that true partner can't enter until you release the emotions, release the connection to the partner whom you have held on to for so long, simply because you were used to that partner for so long. There's purpose. There is usually a purpose when divorce is happening, when someone's spouse dies. There's a higher, deeper purpose usually that is related to that death or related to that separation, which you will understand only after you get out of the grief of the situation. If you don't get out of the grief of the situation, it will be harder for you to understand the deeper and higher purpose. But once you start getting out of the grief, out of the attachment, you will start understanding. And I understand that people might, it is harder, like I'm not saying that it's a very easy life. I have it is a hard life when you do not have a partner with you, but it is a more harder life when if you have to live 120 years to continue, and after 10 years you see you are having a very toxic relationship with someone. Imagine continuing 70 years or more of that life with someone, 70-80 years of that life with someone. It is much more harder to continue living like that. You will be more close to death than living. You are more prone to die than live healthily with a partner who doesn't align rightly with you, doesn't caretake you in a way you are meant to be caretaken. You are not able to caretake them in a way they need caretaking. So that's why, and that's why also in current times religion is also coming into place, because religion is first giving you the keys and codes to how you are supposed to have a good, balanced, healthy relationship with your partner. But they are just giving you the map, what map you have to follow in order to be in a good relationship with a partner. But it has to be also the same map your partner is following. But if you follow a map which will take you from point A to point B, and while from going from A to B there were other intermediate points E, F, which was similar, you also had to take A, E, F to go to B, and your partner also has to take A, E, F point, but his destination is not B, his destination is Z, then you are going in two different directions, right? So until the time your path is supposed to be together, A, E, F points, that partner might be there in your life. But after F, slowly, that's why your divisions will start happening, or fracturing of your life path will start happening, because one of the partners is supposed to go to B and the other partner is supposed to go to Z, right? And yes, maybe if you have a child, you might think what will happen to the child. Is he supposed to go to B or is he supposed to go to Z? Maybe that child is the one who's supposed to go to both places. But when and how, that you have to mutually decide. Is he supposed to be with the mother for 10-20 years after he graduates, or until he graduates school? Is he supposed to go to Z later on? Or maybe the child that was there in your life, he was also supposed to be there only in your life until the F point of time, and after that for a while maybe he will be in B and Z for a while, but after that he is meant to go in his own M direction possibly. So that M direction, which is B and Z, are like two opposite ends of the alphabet. M is in the center of the alphabet. So he came into a family where one parent was going in one direction, another parent was going in the other direction, because the child was supposed to go in that intermediate direction where neither parents will be going, or both parents will be okay to come and visit him occasionally because he exists there, because that is their purpose. They're not supposed to go to Z. They're only supposed to be like, one parent might supposed to be in the beginning letters of the alphabet, another parent might be in the other side of the alphabet, which is how life is. Life is like a spectrum of these alphabets, the different range of experiences we'll be having in life. One parent might be meant to learn about experiences related to maybe many light filled experiences. Another parent might be going through experiences of many darkness filled experiences. Now the child is meant to be in the center, but the parent who is always in the light, maybe he doesn't enjoy the darkness so much, so he runs away from the darkness. That's why their paths are bifurcating. On the parent who likes the darkness too much, that parent doesn't like the light as much, so he runs away from the light. So that's why they have a child in the middle who will balance them and who is meant to interact with them occasionally. But all three might be together, sent in each other's lives for only being with each other for maybe only 20-30 years of their life, and not longer than that. After that, they all have their individual journey to go to, which is very difficult to understand. But those kind of families also exist on earth currently. That's why also sometimes children get adopted and they never know sometimes who their parents were. That can happen to certain children. There are other children who go through this difficult journey of the parents fighting about darkness and light, so that the child learns about the middle path of what is the right path of darkness and light. So which is part of the ascension journey. And like that, darkness and light, toxic masculinity, toxic femininity, all these diverse spectrums, we came on earth to experience that kind of life with our parents or family, so that we can learn the right lessons from it to finally go towards the path that will take us towards ascension. I hope this made sense, and if people have any questions and comments, I would love to hear from you. Thank you.